parties warm up for the 2025 presidential election. Two coalitions led by Honorable Jean-Michel Ninche and Olivier Billet have come into existence, but quickly banned by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Tanganji Paul, who qualified them as illegal, fake and clandestine, and banned the coalitions from carrying out any activity. And of course, we are also looking at issues concerning the state of the nation. We are looking at how to heal the sick nationhood that is seriously threatened by the Anglophone crisis, plus issues of human rights and the judicial system of the country. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Barrister ABINE, former judge of the Supreme Court of Cameroon, founder and former president of the Popular Action Party, the PAP, humanitarian, founder of St. Valentine Orphanage. Barrister, we are meeting you today on a wheelchair, and you've been on this wheelchair since 2022. That's getting to 2 years now. Can you tell us what is the situation now as far as your health is concerned?
Well, as you see me, and the spectators are seeing me, this is all me. You've already said rightly that I've been in this wheelchair since June 2022. End of May this year will make me 24 months on this chair. I was taken ill in January 2019. The situation degenerated steadily till June 2022, when I could no longer stand on my own feet. I got paralyzed from the waist to the toes and got confined to this wheelchair. It would be recalled that on the 21st of January 2017, I was kidnapped from my house in Yaoundé, from my residence in Yaoundé, and kept in captivity for 223 days without charge. Some fine day, I was just told to walk back home. While in detention, I lost my left eye. I now see only with the right eye. I developed a cardiac malaise, which is still on. Only yesterday, I went to a center in Douala, where I have my medical checkup every month, and I was advised to meet a cardiologist. That's me. How did we get to this point where I climbed the judicial ladder to the top, got to index 1,400. Nobody goes beyond. Saved my country for at least 4 decades, only to end up the way I am. I'm unable to foot my medical bills because not only has my pension been retained by the government without any reason, without even informing me, for close to 7 years, but for over 5 years now, my bank accounts have been frozen. Nobody has told me why they were frozen. In fact, nobody has told me my accounts were frozen. I went to withdraw money to buy my medicines, only to find that I could not do it. And the bank informed me orally that they had been ordered to freeze my account. I have millions lying somewhere, yet I have nothing in terms of money to buy my medicines. My children I've sacrificed. God gave me wonderful children. But then they have their own problems to solve. I am where I am.
You serve the nation to the highest point, the judicial ladder. And that justice system, is it unable to serve justice to Justice AYAH ABINE today?
I am not in a position to judge the justice system in Cameroon. I can only say that even as a Supreme Court judge, while in captivity, I went to court with a habeas corpus application. It was rejected by the High Court, rejected by the Court of Appeal, and I appealed to my colleagues of the Supreme Court. That was in 2017. Up to this moment I am talking, there's nothing before me that the case has been heard. Whereas by a Cameroonian law, the Criminal Procedure Code, the Supreme Court had 30 days. They have not done so up to now. We're in 2024, 7 years since. So that alone would lead anybody to draw conclusions as to the justice system. It's not for me to judge. I tried in the past to say a number of things that I thought were of general interest, and I paid dearly for it. I'm still paying dearly for it. Can you imagine that? Pension is my saving. How would anybody return my pension without due process? That is our justice system. I went to the African Commission for Human and People's Rights at the Gambia since April 2017. Anybody can calculate from April 2017 to today. The case has not been heard. A few months ago, my lawyer told me he had information that the file was missing. That was after there had been rumors upon rumors, even allegations that the government had compromised the commission. Even at the international level, I cannot obtain justice. We don't know if the case is still pending or truly the file is missing. Missing even at the international level.
You have taken some actions with regards to the authorities, even to the highest level, right into the presidency of the Republic, and you have not received any response. So where is the problem?
It's fertile ground for researchers, research fellows to go into it and dig out. All I can say is that in my early life, I grew up in part with a British soldier, late Colonel L.T. Valentine, and he impacted in me a lot of principles. One of them was never to keep anything in my stomach, on my mind, because those are not stores. So I speak out. While in Parliament, I spoke out. They didn't kill me, but Martinez Zogo, who repeated just what I had said over the years, I was in Parliament for 11 years, has been killed. And I got to a point where I said it was unconscionable. It was immoral. That's the meaning of unconscionable. It's legal jargon. That it was unconscionable to amend the Constitution to the benefit of an individual. I incurred a lot of hostility. I was still in CPDM at the time, hostilities from my friends. They even tried to table a law that would get me out of parliament. I received death threats.
You told me earlier that you wrote to the presidency of the republic and there was no response. I wanted to look at this camera now and send the same message that you put in that letter to the presidency to the head of state, Paul Biya, right now.
Mr. President of the Republic, if I stood against constitutional amendment, I had nothing against you. It was a matter of principle. Pension is a saving, money deducted from my salary over the period of my career. It is not money I have to earn. How on earth would your government sit on my money for 7 years, even at the time that I am on the brink of the grave? Mr. President, I leave it to your conscience. You may wish to ask yourself, if I were in Paul AYAH's position, and you happen to be Paul, the wonderful preacher, the wonderful teacher, if we bear that name truly, I leave it to your conscience.
This is just a single out of many cases of human rights violations in Cameroon today. A recent report by a group of civil society organizations highlighted close to 2,000 cases of human rights violations just for 2023 alone. In your opinion, what is creating this enabling ground for increased human rights violations in Cameroon today?
I said somewhere, and I'll say it here again with emphasis, that the day the international community talks about justice, that day is the beginning of social justice in the world. The international community talks about interest, British interest, French interest, American interest. Once that interest is safeguarded, it is meaningless to the West how many people die. It is meaningless to the West the principle of human rights, democracy. The trouble is that Cameroon is fantastically rich in so many diverse ways. Underground, look at the minerals, apart from oil, iron ore, manganese. On the land, you will drive kilometers upon kilometers of rubber, kilometers upon kilometers of banana, oil palm trees, a variety. Cameroon is fantastically rich. And any Western power, I don't say much about the East, although the Chinese are draining us in silently, but the West wants what we have, to the detriment of democracy, to the detriment of human rights, to the detriment of lives, human lives. Once they get what they want, it matters not what happens to us.
You're pointing an accusing finger towards the West, but within the national territory, we're talking about issues of human rights violations here and there, every now and then, femicide, sexual abuse, people who are tortured, illegal and indiscriminate arrest and detention of persons, hundreds of them who have been arrested in connection to the Anglophone crisis, and they are in detention. They have been there for so many years without being tried, without being charged, and all of these things happening within the national territory. And the judicial authorities are looking at this. The courts are not serving justice to the people, and so on and so forth.
I was just coming to the point. I have said elsewhere in the past that the world cannot have justice without a world gendarme. The West, for now, is the world gendarme. If they connive at the crimes done at the local level, if they promote those perpetrating the crimes, you cannot expect anything good at the local level. I do explain, for instance, my case. A retired Supreme Court judge. If I'm treated this way, what do you expect for the ordinary man? I'm not saying I'm superior to them. I'm just saying where I was. In the fountain of justice, if the water from that fountain cannot wash me, how do you expect somebody from the desert to be washed? What's happening at the local level is as a result of connivance, because they are compromised with our natural resources. They no longer have, the authority to speak against those crimes. So the people who lead us find that it is no man's land. It is like the Wild West in those days. The cowboy would just come with his gun and shoot without reason because of lawlessness. Now there's lawlessness, total lawlessness.
That takes us to governance. What do you think about the way Cameroon is governed today? Some Cameroonians are even asking if the country is actually governed, if there is a leader, though the head of state is there, the president is there, but Cameroonians are still asking if this country is governed, looking at the cacophony that we see sometimes in the functioning of the administrative mechanism.
You know the answer already. Everybody knows the answer. You just want me maybe to repeat what you know already. In which country have you heard that the office of the president writes to the prime minister through the secretary general under the prime minister? Is that governance? Is the prime minister the head of government that the office of the president treats with his secretary general and not directly with him? What leverage would the prime minister have over his subordinates if he is so depicted and treated? Where have you ever heard that for years, year in, year out, the Secretary General at the office of the President does anything in the name of haute instruction, whatever, haute instruction? So is there a president? That's the question that Cameroonians have to answer. If there's a president...
But the Constitution makes provision for delegation of powers to the Secretary General.
No. The Constitution equally makes provision for a president, a serving president, to resign if he finds that for whatever reason he cannot carry out his duties. There's nothing in the Constitution except a new Constitution there is now that the president relinquishes all his powers to the Secretary General, who is just a minister. They call Minister of State, the Secretary General, Minister of State. He's not the President of the Republic who elected him. And therefore, he cannot perform all the functions of the President in the name of delegation of power.
With regards to this and other happenings in the country, and notably maybe in the economic perspective, where we have Cameroonians groaning under the weight of inflation, under the weight of increasing cost of living, especially with the recent increase in fuel prices, and which led to increase in prices of basic commodity, transport, and every other thing. And their voices, their cries, seem not to be heard.
Why are Cameroonians crying? Why should Cameroonians cry? When I was reading law, I came upon a certain Latin expression, delegatus non potest delegare. The president is the delegate of the people. The people put him there. He cannot delegate his functions. And if the people who put him there, who are more powerful because the people are always there. A president comes and goes, but the people are permanently there. How can the delegate of the people be more powerful than the people? Right now, with small bottles of Guinness, with Maggi cubes, the very people who are suffering, let me not say you say are suffering, they are, the very people who are suffering are calling on the president to stand so that there's continuation of this way of life. Can you say those such people are suffering? I remember that when I wanted to stand presidential election in 2011, a well-meaning Cameroonian statesman called me and said, Paul, I know who you are. Cameroonians are not people worth fighting for. They will lead you to the middle of the river, and when they see the torrents, they will leave you there alone and withdraw. And you alone would be swept downstream. Those are Cameroonians. How can people who have the power be treated by a single individual to whom they delegated some of their powers? The president is elected by the people. He can never ever be more powerful than the people who elected him. And if the people are suffering and at the same time they're asking him to continue to be there, then they are not suffering.
But those who are asking him to continue to be there constitute just a small percentage of the masses, a small percentage of the huge chunk of the population who are living below the poverty line, who are living in hardship, in misery, and unable to afford 3 square meals a day, unable to treat themselves, unable to get potable water, to drink potable water, unable to have electricity, unable to have social amenities, and so on. Those who are down there, weeping every day.
What would you want me to say? Perhaps you want me to say something which I have never hesitated to say. That it is wrong to say that there is a more corrupt country in the world than Cameroon. Cameroon is the worst corrupt country in the world. The most and the worst. How can somebody who is suffering march in the streets tomorrow? The man causing me this suffering should be there forever. Truly, if somebody is suffering, he will lie on their back in the middle of the night and ask, Papa God, show me the way out. He won't receive Maggi cubes and get carried away. That very person may have suffered and educated the child to the university level. The child comes back, is asking for toothpaste, asking for money for soap. And that person marches in the street tomorrow under whatever compulsion with an honest man do that. And if the people are dishonest, they are responsible for their woes. They are answerable for their woes. Look at the children who were killed in 2008. Where were their parents? The young felt that they had suffered enough. They were killed, And the matter ended just there. So if the people cannot speak out, look at what's happening in Senegal. How more educated are those people? How less black are they? But here we accept everything joyfully and ask for more punishment. Remember, the Southwest chiefs sat here and asked the government to send more military, whatever, to kill their citizens in the name of fighting Amber. Whatever the case, would you ask somebody to come and kill your brother? But that's it. The very people asking for more punishment. I mean, if somebody wants to be punished, feeling is entirely personal. They cannot beat you there and I'm feeling, you cannot be hungry and I'm, no, it's entirely personal. If the person feeling doesn't feel or pretends not to feel, an outsider should not be held responsible. An outsider can never help that person out.
But the chiefs were asking for whatever they asked for to secure, because they said, or the government has been saying this, and it's actually the role of the military to protect the territorial integrity of the country, to protect the people, to ensure that there is peace and stability all across the board.
Without interrupting you, as a Cameroonian journalist here, as you said that, this very government refused to dialogue and preferred to kill its own citizens. I wrote more than 12 times pleading for dialogue, saying without dialogue, these are the consequences. Everything happening today, I pointed out. I went to the point where I wrote to the Secretary General of the United Nations. Don't allow this thing to get to a point where there will be military conflict. Because once it starts, there will be so many splinter groups that nobody will be responsible to anybody.
We'll surely
and that's where we are today.
We'll come back to that shortly. That looking at the governance mechanism of the country today, and from what you're saying, it can be concluded that the governance system has failed in its duties to protect the citizens, to make sure that the citizens have their right to dignity, their right to life, their right to health, their right to every other thing that is good for every human being. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe you were just reciting or reading my mind. But that's a fact. You don't need to read anybody's mind. That's a fact. Go through the whole of Buea town here. Come back to me and tell me that you've seen a single public tap